So the last video I recorded was looking at the differences and what we're looking for between first and third degrees, and I went through an outline of the tests for those guys. But this video is really going to be diving into what are the nuts and bolts of what does a test look like for a black belt in ShouKenDou, and why do we test the things that we do? How does it relate to self-defense? Whether you're going for first, second, or third degree, all three tests require an application ahead of time, including select essays and a letter of recommendation for first degree, or 2 letters of recommendation for second or third degree. They also require a certain amount of time in prior ranks, plus minimum age requirements. I know some schools don't do that. We do. You've got to spend 9 months as a gray belt and be at least 14 to be eligible for first dan. You've got to spend about 2 years as a first dan, and you have to be at least 16 years old to be considered for second dan. You have to be a second dan for about 3 years and be 19 years old to be considered for third dan. The day of the black belt test is split into 3 sections. One is fitness and fundamentals. Section 2, performance and knowledge check. Section 3 is practical application. Let's talk about that first section, fitness and fundamentals. This section ensures that our black belt prospects are in reasonable physical condition and that they can perform a wide variety of strikes, blocks, and kicks on demand, right? Endurance is key to a fight, and this section will test that endurance. We kick off the test with a 5-mile run. The expectation is to run it in under 50 minutes. The run is immediately followed by 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups. The testers are then bowed in, and they've got to demonstrate their knowledge and execution of the fundamental techniques in ShouKenDou, meaning the building blocks, the strikes, the blocks, the kicks, all that good fun stuff. They've got to prove that they can do it even when they're feeling tired. Drink breaks are awarded more often to those putting in the most effort and demonstrating the best attitude. Section 2 is the performance and knowledge check. This section of the black belt test tests your memorization and execution of chained techniques known as kata. Kata is Japanese for pattern or form. It looks a lot like a dance. It includes both empty hand forms and weapon forms. Weapon we sometimes call kabuto. Kata, it serves several important functions in karate, so long as you're also doing sparring or kumite. If you're not doing sparring, kata is ineffective. Kata is less likely to lead to injury than sparring. It's much easier to practice independently, so if you don't have a partner, you can always do kata. It shares a lot in common with dance, including sharpening the mind by integrating your entire body into the memorization process. Kata helps develop balance, footwork, kinesthetic awareness, speed, agility, precision, and endurance. A lot like shadowboxing. The main difference between kata and shadowboxing is usually improvised or made of really short combos, and kata is a lengthier chain of pre-choreographed techniques, incorporating disciplined, longer form memorization. That's really the main difference between the two. Kabuto, also known as weapon work, requires the practitioner to add an extension to the body in the form of various traditional melee weapons. Tonfa, sai, nunchuck, you name it. This section also includes our defenses and our flow drills. These are shorter, predetermined sequences against a partner. Additionally, this section includes what I call the thesis defense. This means board members will be able to ask you questions about essays, about your experiences in martial arts, what you think of this, what do you think you can improve in the future, how do you want to round yourself out better as a martial artist, all that things, okay? Finally, we've got section 3, the practical application. Finally, after the testers are worn out, we test how well they can practically apply their knowledge. Self-defense situations, it doesn't wait for ideal circumstances. That's why we want the testers tired. If they can apply what they know at this point of exhaustion, it's an indication that they'll be better prepared for the unfair circumstances of a real fight. To repurpose the words of the great Patches O'Houlihan, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. First, we have the testers perform one-steps, also known as ippon kumite. In a one-step, the defender is attacked by a single attack with an opponent, then immediately demonstrates a brief counter combination against the now compliant opponent. Not true sparring, they do a single attack and you demonstrate a counter combo. After that, we put on our sparring gear, we do several live rounds of sparring, most of which are against fresh opponents. The duration and difficulty of sparring can vary widely. If you've had a crummy attitude during the test or we think you were being lazy, we're gonna make you do a lot more sparring, right? It usually involves some matches of point sparring, some matches against larger opponents, some, again, where you are outnumbered in sparring, and we finish it off with the Kobayashi Maru, which for you Star Trek fans, you know, this is a match designed to make sure you keep fighting with a cool head, even in a no-win scenario. Typically, the sparring only involves striking, kicking, and sweeping, which is consistent with karate rule set, though occasionally the board will throw additional challenges like grappling at the testers to see how they perform against things they're not used to. Lastly, to demonstrate techniques delivered with power and accuracy, testers must break 12 boards with different strikes and kicks. Upon completion of the test, the board will sequester themselves for deliberation. They will discuss the different candidates, including strengths, weaknesses, and overall thoughts for how we can improve the school, weaknesses we noticed overall versus individual weaknesses, things like that. The voting members of the board, they then get to cast their votes. A supermajority, 66% or more, that is required for a promotion to be granted. So if we have less than 2/3 of the vote, you don't get the belt. Once votes have been counted, the board goes back into the testing room and they promote the passing students. Generally speaking, we discourage people from testing for their black belt and inviting their friends and family if we aren't very confident they're gonna pass, right? Usually, right, I make sure to communicate that well ahead of time where I'm like, hey, you are not looking good. I do not think you are going to pass. And I make sure that the students know that. And I'm like, you can still test if you want to, but I would not advise it because I think you are going to fail. Because you don't want them being surprised after a 7-hour day and they've invited their friends and family. But you also want to protect the integrity of the belt and expect and demand excellence from your students. So there we have it, guys. That's what to expect if you're going to swing by a black belt test. That's what you can expect to watch. If you're going for your black belt in ShouKenDou, awesome. That's what you can expect to go through. Thanks, guys. Bye.